Whiskey Tango Foxtrot is going on in San Francisco. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is another Declaration of Truth from your host, Terry A. Hurlbut. And I'll tell you, San Francisco has turned into one of the worst city failures in the history of civilization. We now have that definitive word from two of San Francisco's most prominent residents on Twitter. One of them is Mike Schellenberger, famous as a colleague of Matt Taibbi in handling the Twitter files, but he has been covering San Francisco's problems for years. The other is Elon Musk, the new owner of Twitter. I'm going to talk about what sparked this latest discussion and share with you several of Mike Schellenberger's threads and some other threads from people in the know, one of them from a city supervisor, and how Elon Musk feels about it. But first, I do want to shout out to the prime sponsor of this channel, which is Conservative News and Views. Link in the description. And be sure to check out the awesome CNAV Store. Scroll down near the bottom for that link. Lots of great merchandise there, especially this t-shirt that I've chosen for today, which quotes Aldous Huxley as saying, "Facts do not cease to exist because they are ignored." And you will see some appalling attempts to hide facts by lying about them. One more thing. If you like what you're about to hear, you can like this video. You can also click the bell icon to get a notice every time I come out with a new one. In fact, do you see the new icon, the heart shape with the US dollar sign in it? That's the super thanks icon. If you really want to keep these videos coming, click that and leave me a tip. Any currency will do, so long as it's legal tender. The event that started all the mourning for San Francisco was the closure of Whole Foods Market's mid-market San Francisco flagship store. That store had been open for only a year, but closed 2 days ago, April 10th. Officially, the company said, quote, "We are closing our Trinity location only for the time being if we feel that we can ensure the safety of our team members in the store. We will evaluate a reopening of our Trinity location," close quote. Now, this did not come out of the blue. Last October, the store curtailed its hours, citing high rates of shoplifting and hostile visitors. A month later, they started restricting the bathrooms to paying customers only. Security guards had found syringes and drug pipes in one or both bathrooms. But 2 store team members gave the real reason: wholesale shoplifting. And now the store has closed. Temporarily, the company says, permanently, I think. Supervisor Matt Dorsey thinks he knows why. The San Francisco Police Department is understaffed. He has already filed to amend the city charter to bring the police up to full staff. I have a link in the description to his proposals to amend the charter. He writes, quote, "I write to request your office's assistance in drafting a charter amendment entitled the San Francisco Police Department Full Staffing Act, which, if enacted by voters, would reestablish minimum police staffing levels and mandate certain budgetary provisions over a 5-year period to achieve a fully staffed municipal police force in the city and county of San Francisco," close quote. The link is to a document on the Adobe Acrobat site, so you'd have to sign in for access to the site's tools. But you can still read the document. And, by the way, don't let that bit about attorney-client privilege scare you. In a thread that I will shortly quote, Supervisor Dorsey waived that privilege. Now, Mike Schellenberger, who, as it happens, wrote a book titled San Francisco, among his other works, dropped the first thread on Easter Sunday. I have links to 6 tweets, the anchor tweet, the odd numbers, and the full tweet. In fact, this is how I'm going to share all the Twitter threads today. And here's what he says. Thread begins. San Francisco used to bus street addicts home. Now, quote, "the city keeps people and traps them. They're not going to make it to the next town, let alone Idaho or Illinois. They'd be in withdrawal before they even pull out of the bus terminal. Unquote, a certain article that he embeds. In civilized cities, the mentally ill who are destroying themselves are required to go to the hospital. In San Francisco, the mentally ill are left literally to rot on the street. In the name of compassion, San Francisco politicians believe the real victims are the drug dealers who work for a murderous multinational corporation and make $1,000 a day pimping children and killing people with meth and fentanyl. Who really runs San Francisco? Quote, San Francisco's former fire commissioner was brutally attacked this week after a group of homeless people slashed him with a knife and fractured his skull with a pipe in his own front yard, according to a family friend, close quote. But San Francisco's politicians say it's all much ado about nothing. Quote, a small minority has tried to weaponize this tragedy to advance a narrative about a crime wave that just isn't borne out by the data in San Francisco, close quote. Hardy har har har. Next, Schellenberger embeds a video showing a woman giving birth on the street after smoking crack all day. Now, I'm a doctor, and I can tell you, that baby is in for a world of hurt. Newsflash, cocaine crosses the placenta and does bad things to preborns, including getting them hooked. Moving on. The big lie is that the folks on the street are locals who couldn't afford the rent. It's overwhelmingly addicts and mentally ill people from out of town. Anybody who talks to people on the street knows this. And here he quotes a thread he dropped more than a year ago, saying that high rent is not responsible for homelessness in San Francisco. It's drug addiction. Moving on. They pay people to be homeless here. And here he quotes another thread. And this one I'm going to quote in full. First, to wrap up the Easter thread, his last two tweets embed video from these homeless camps, one of which has some very telling interviews with homeless people. They are not doing well. Crime among them is off the charts. And now, here's a thread he dropped last year about the plight of homeless people in San Francisco. Thread begins. People say lack of housing forces local residents into the streets, but James says he came from Texas to San Francisco for the drugs, the non-enforcement of anti-camping laws, and the $820 a month in welfare and food stamps. James says that he sold fentanyl 2 weeks ago to a 15-year-old. It's reasonable to ask whether I'm seeking out outliers, but I met James 5 minutes after parking my car, and he was the first person I interviewed. And Ben, here's an embed of that interview, was the fourth person we interviewed after about 20 minutes on the street doing interviews. People are surprised by these interviews because much of what we've read is propaganda put forward by activists with an agenda and reporters who are also ideological, but also lazy and too scared to ask direct questions of street people. I interviewed hundreds of homeless people for my book, San Francisco, using the same methods I used during 33 years of interviewing people in war zones. I'm friendly, respectful, and direct. Watch James open up about the horrible thing a man can do to a woman, fentanyl death, and the hot sellers market for used Narcan vials. Meaning, click through and play the embedded video, but parental judgment and discretion are advised. My reporting has embarrassed and made defensive progressive activists, academics, and journalists who have resorted to a big lie, claiming on the one hand that I never talk to homeless people, and then on the other hand that I'm breaking the law to talk to homeless people. San Francisco city government is currently overseeing an unethical and illegal medical experiment on society's most vulnerable people. But my critics are spreading the lie that I am the real criminal. Why? For daring to report on the sinister experiment. And here he links to an article in the San Francisco Chronicle talking about his having been kicked out of the Tenderloin open-air drug market. Now, moving on. The people who are most loudly demanding censorship are fake journalists who feel threatened by real journalists. We are an embarrassment to them. We do things like report on illegal government corruption, use data to debunk their narrative, and interview the wrong people. Things are changing rapidly. People can see they've been lied to. Most commenters at the San Francisco Chronicle are strongly in favor of my reporting. And with every attack activists, academics, and journalists that make on honest reporting, we only grow stronger. End of thread. Now, the way I see it, with all due respect to Mr. Schellenberger, and I respect him a lot, little or nothing has changed. Now I'm going to quote a thread Mr. Schellenberger dropped 2 days earlier than that last one about drug addiction. But first, I want to shout out to a sponsor who can really help you through the economic storms to come. That sponsor is oursilverlines.com. Do you feel like you're working harder for your money just to get by? You are not alone. The fluctuating economy, the employment issues, and unexpected changes in life have left many families struggling over the past few years. Collecting gold and silver can help shield you against many of these challenges. But if you're like me many years ago, you don't know where or how to start. Our Silver Lines helps you by connecting you with thousands of members who are creating and protecting true wealth by collecting precious metals. And whether you just want to collect rare and unique coins or take advantage of the business opportunities this company provides, either way, they can help you learn to live an exceptional life. Visit oursilverlines.com and learn how you can build a legacy for your future. And now, thread begins. In the spring of 2021, a team of Harvard medical experts found that after 10 years, just 12% of the previously homeless remain housed. In 2018, a National Academy of Sciences review of the science concluded that there was no substantial evidence that the policy of housing first contributes to improved health outcomes. This shouldn't come as a surprise given that it doesn't deal with addiction. But in the name of housing first, San Francisco's elected leaders have deliberately chosen to leave a significant portion of the homeless unsheltered on the logic that anything short of a permanent apartment, no strings attached for any addict who wants one, is immoral. It didn't have to be this way. New York has made the decision that everyone should have an exit from the street, noted Supervisor Raphael Mandelman, one of the city's 11 supervisors. San Francisco has consistently chosen not to make that commitment, and the conditions on New York streets versus San Francisco streets are somewhat reflective of what that means. It seems like it cannot get worse, but it can. In Canada, taxpayer-funded service providers have been delivering fentanyl directly to addicts living in homeless drug encampments. This is where many fear the San Francisco program is headed. The backlash is building, though. It is made up of fed-up city residents, addiction experts, and the relatives of addicts. On Saturday morning, mothers of homeless addicts and moms of kids killed by drugs gathered to protest the supervised drug site in front of the Linkage Center. They call themselves Mothers Against Drug Deaths, and they are part of the California Peace Coalition, which I co-founded last May. Gina McDonald, Samantha's mother, was there. She opened up to me about her own past addictions. She was an alcoholic, then turned to opioids, then to meth. Within 6 months, I was in a psychiatric ward with meth-induced psychosis. In May, she will have been sober for 10 years. I don't want to know what she has to do to survive out there, McDonald said of her daughter. I know because I was an addict, but I don't want to hear it from her. Can you imagine what these girls had to do out there to not be dope sick? That's Schellenberger, I no longer believe that changes in the city will come from Mayor Breed. That's Mayor London Breed. If it comes, it will come from mothers like Gina McDonald. When she took the microphone on Saturday, she didn't hold back. Mayor Breed, she said, I'm tired of the excuse making too. And I quote her loosely, you know I will always bow the rise when I have to. P.S. I am grateful to Barry Weiss for doing for this piece something I couldn't have done alone, and to Nellie Bowles for her intro. You guys are bright lights in dark times. End of thread. On Monday at 3:10 p.m. Pacific Time, Supervisor Dorsey dropped this thread about his proposed San Francisco Police Department Full Staffing Act. Thread begins. I'm incredibly disappointed, but sadly unsurprised by the temporary closure of Mid-Market's Whole Foods. Our neighborhood waited a long time for this supermarket, but we're also well aware of the problems they've experienced with drug-related retail theft, adjacent drug markets, and the many safety issues related to them. Today, I am waiving privilege to publicly announce a drafting request that I'm working on with Supervisor Catherine Stefani for a charter amendment titled the San Francisco Police Department Full Staffing Act, which will get San Francisco to a fully staffed police department within 5 years. San Franciscans have been denied the benefits of a fully staffed police department for nearly 30 years. Today, our current police understaffing crisis has never been worse. Whole Foods closure, together with many other safety-related challenges we've seen recently, is Exhibit A as to why San Francisco can no longer afford not to solve our police understaffing crisis. San Franciscans, or at least the ones I represent in District 6, are demanding solutions, and they have a right to expect that from those of us in City Hall. I hope my colleagues will support that effort. We owe our residents nothing less. End of thread. About an hour and a half later, Mike Schellenberger dropped another thread, this time about willful underreporting of crime. Thread begins. San Francisco politicians and the local news media say crime isn't increasing, but Whole Foods begs to differ. Today, Whole Foods announced that it is abandoning its one-year-old flagship store downtown because of crime and rampant drug dealing. San Francisco is a failed city. It cannot protect the safety of its residents, tourists, or businesses. Governor Gavin Newsom needs to halt his presidential run and send in the National Guard to shut down the dangerous and deadly open-air drug markets. If Newsom can call in the National Guard to protect the Capitol from pro-Trump's protesters, then he can certainly call in the National Guard to protect San Francisco residents from aggressive and violent criminals and drug dealers. Quote, the drug dealers won. The city never forced them to permanently leave. I regularly hear rumors of other closures. If the city doesn't care about protecting Whole Foods, why would it protect the small business? Unquote. Randy Shaw, editor of Beyond Cron and executive director of the Tenderloin Housing Clinic. Further quote, once a security guard tried to stop an addict from stealing and was thrown through plate glass near the cheese counter. Another security guard who came to his assistance was strangled. Unquote. Lee Woodhouse. San Francisco local news media claim crime is not increasing, but their own polls show that nearly half of residents have been recent victims of theft. The media rarely mention that people long ago stopped reporting crimes like theft that don't get enforced. Regime media say crime isn't worsening, but their own polls find that 65% of residents disagree. Quote, reported violent crime overall declined over the past 3 years from 2019 to 2022, dropping by 14% along with property crimes which decreased by 7%, unquote the San Francisco Chronicle. And then in an article about the recent murder, and that's in an article about the recent murder of a man by the name of Bob Lee. Well, Schellenberger closes the thread with a quote of another thread from the San Francisco Police Officers Association. They examine that very article that I just quoted, and they tear it apart. Their thread begins. The San Francisco Chronicle chose to make its story about the murder of tech executive Bob Lee into a lecture on crime, essentially shaming those who are concerned with San Francisco's crime levels. They made the following false statements: that over the past 3 years, violent crime is down. It's up. Property crime is down. It's up. And there was a slight increase in homicides between 2020 and 2021. It was a 17% increase that held the following year. We reviewed their source document, and it's right there in black and white. Over the last 3 years, violent crime is up 7.5%, and property crime is up 20.1%. And by the way, homicides year to date are up 20% this year. End of thread. Elon Musk himself weighed in twice, about 6 hours apart. First, he said, quote, downtown San Francisco looks like a zombie apocalypse. People who have not been there have no idea, unquote Elon Musk. 6 hours later, he said, quote, people give up reporting crime when no action is taken or the criminal is immediately released. They actually call it catch and release, close quote. I have links in the description to both his tweets. Several users pointed out a specific problem with Whole Foods' Trinity location, that it is near an open-air drug market. Well, it's the Tenderloin market. One user proposed legalizing the drugs, but then another user pointed to hard and fast data from Amsterdam, the Netherlands, showing that wouldn't work. I have 2 links in the description, so between them you can see the full debate. Here's how it went down. A, perhaps the best approach would be drug legalization to curb the black market, but all at the same time enforce laws when it came to theft, shoplifting, on and on and on. By refusing to enforce these laws, they are emboldening these crimes. B, it doesn't curb it though. That's the fallacy. They know it even in Amsterdam. And here he links to a Reuters article about drug users in Amsterdam where it is legal. It's a case study in how stupid liberalization of drug use really is. A, so from what I see is that Amsterdam legalized the use of drugs but did not crack down on the sale. Drug legalization should also come with a network of authorized outlets, government-run or not, for drug users to obtain them legally. Punish those who purchase or sell outside it. B, how's that working for California's pot industry? I'll give you a clue. Not well. A large portion is coming from across the border or inside the United States from affiliated cartel distribution sites. End of debate. And now my analysis. Elon Musk is correct. Other witnesses have reported the same thing he did, that downtown San Francisco looks like a scene out of a depressing movie. Anyone who remembers when San Francisco was clean 50 years ago and longer doubtless feels that depression more acutely. Even the horrific scenes of the aftermath of the San Francisco earthquake of 1906, as depicted in the 1936 motion picture San Francisco, cannot match what we see today. And who do the editors of the San Francisco Chronicle think they are? And whom do they think they're fooling? They're acting like the old Soviet wire service. Except that Mayor London Breed hasn't taken the Soviet-style step of closing the city and censoring all reporting of conditions within it, which makes those editors look, frankly, stupid. Then again, San Francisco gave us William Randolph Hearst, that citizen Hearst who lied the country into the Spanish-American War. Evidently, standards of journalism haven't improved. Or if they ever did, then they have disimproved to that yellow journalism Spanish-American War level. The entire country should hang its collective head in larger shame that any American city should come to this pass. But elections do indeed have consequences, and people get what they vote for. Links to the description of the article, to Supervisor Dorsey's Charter Amendment proposal, to the Easter Sunday thread, to the homelessness thread, to the drug addiction thread, and then to Supervisor Dorsey's thread announcing his Charter Amendment, to Schellenberger's final thread on crime underreporting, to the thread by the SFPOA disputing the SF Chronicle's crime figures, to Elon Musk's 2 tweets, to the debate on drug legalization, to my Declarations of Truth Twitter account, and to conservative news and views. I've also left links to the awesome CNAV Store and to oursilverlines.com, as I also mentioned. You know already about how to like a video, turn on notifications, and leave a tip. On the end screen, I'm going to leave a subscribe link to my channel and links to 3 other videos specifically about Whole Foods closing its downtown San Francisco store. This is Terry A. Hurlbut delivering another declaration of truth and reminding you to let the truth set you free.